would pop his dentures out. And, you know, like, and the kids would, he's always said, they're doing it, they're trying to pop their teeth out.
Yeah, he was the case too. He taught Jonathan to turn his pacifier upside down, spit it out, and turn it upside down. Oh, do you? Well, I'm proud of you for remembering that, yeah. But he was so proud of that. And spitting out your vitamins. Thank you, Papa
I went
Fred.
over to get his truck one time.
Mm-hmm.
I was 16 or 17, and he had 2 beehives on it, and they were covered with bees.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you can borrow the truck, but you just got to take the beehives off. And I said, okay, how? And he said, don't go in front of them, come behind them, just brush gently till you can put your hands on and pick them up and carry them. And I did, one at a time, the bees all over me. And I never got stung one time.
I never knew this about you, Mark. You climb into caves, coal mines, and you get covered with bees.
Yeah, but I remember looking at them, there was like 30, 40 bees on each arm.
I've seen
But they
him
were
do
just
that.
walking. I mean, I wasn't hurt.
Stick your head in the head of the line.
No.
I've seen Granddaddy do that.
I know, but you know.
But not you.
Yeah. I needed the truck.
And you believed it. Well, motivation.
Well, he was telling me to do it. It's like, this is what you do, young man. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to say no or ooh, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just do it. And then if you get stung, he said, now if you get stung, don't drop them.
Yeah, that would be bad.
If I'd have been stung, I wouldn't have dropped it.
Mm,
He told me no.
nerves of steel.
Tell them that Daddy showed you about the Joseph, about the vitamin for the liver.
Oh, I may have told you all this before, back when, I guess I was 7 or 8, but Dad and I were home together, and he was ironing shirts. He ironed 8 or 9 shirts, and I was watching television. A commercial came on for Doan's liver pills.
Oh, Doan's liver pills. Doan's little liver pills,
And I
right.
said, do those things work? And he said, do they work? I know a man ate a bottle a day for 3 years. And I said, what happened? They said, well, he died, but they had to beat his liver to death with a stick.
Yeah, 20, he was that guy they had to finish off. Yeah.
You need to tell him, because I know it'll split everybody's mind. But when you first started dating, what advice did Daddy give you on birth control?
I mean, keep in mind, I hadn't even held a hand yet. And we were sitting in the little den in there on Buffalo Mill. And we started talking about girls and stuff because we moved next door to Debbie Justice.
Yes.
And she said, you know what the best form of birth control is? He says, no. He said, sulfur-denial with no acetol.
I hadn't heard that one.
Okay, so the punchline has been resting in my head. And I never knew the lead up for it. I couldn't ask you. Sulfur denial with no acetol.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Now,
now I can fire it out there.
Yeah.
Perfect, too.
Yeah.
There was another.
But I did say, can a man live like that? He said, no.
I like the time Dad would take the kids down and say, can you read that sign? It says too much sex causes blindness. I've been to read that for years.
well, when Kenny and I started dating and Emery and Henry, I was the first one to, Mother and Daddy were the first ones to graduate from high school in their respective families. I would be the first one to graduate from college.
He was very proud.
Yeah, I'm very proud of all the degrees we all amassed. But he sent me a letter, and it was very casual, but it said, somewhere in there it says, remember to be like mayonnaise. Keep cool, but don't freeze. That's the instructions on the mayonnaise jar. Keep cool, but don't freeze.
That's right. I never thought of that.
And yeah, well, think.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
No, I
right.
get
No,
it.
you can't get it out of your mind. But Kenny and I were talking about that. They probably were afraid that I would get married and drop out, which never occurred to me. I'd gone to college,
No,
you know.
I know.
You were where you wanted to be.
I was.
You had your plan lay in front of you.
Mhm.
Pretty amazing.
Yep.
Oh, here's the platypus.
I thought Mother had named a part of her body when they told me the name of that. Cause she kept saying, "I want my platypus," and I was thinking,
Oh,
"Did you
yeah.
name it?"
But I had to get her to say it right. A platypus.
Yeah.
Yeah, she called it a crazy duck, I think. the first time.
Crazy Duck's pretty
Duck's a
good.
Crazy duck.
I like Crazy Duck. Yeah, she had trouble with names. She had a lot of trouble remembering Evelyn's name. And I said it's like Ava, but it's Ava. Ava, Evelyn. Yeah.
She always remembered my mama and papa's name. And
Yes, she
she'd always
did.
ask about them.
Eva and TJ. That's easy. Those are names she knew. She was from up there close to Big Stone Gap. Yeah.
And that's amazing that, she always remembered my kids' names, even though they are very different.
Right.
What to see.
But she always remembered
They're
all four.
I
Yes.
had to spell them out phonetically, so if you ever run across your children's names listed in a row, spelled phonetically, but in East Tennessee, then
That's
don't
why-
hold it against me.
It's not about like how you pronounce, but you remember.
Remember,
Like,
right.
She remembers their names.
Yeah.
Or you do too, but for her, that was a big thing.
It really was. She had problems with, like, our cousin Marilyn had a son named Kevin, her first son, and Kevin was just a new name. It was kind of like Larry. Yeah. There were no Kevins for a while, and then there were Kevins, and Mother kept calling him Calvin. Yeah.
That's right.
And but she did. I mean, like using a smartphone for somebody in her 90s.
Yeah.
But Jeannie, yeah, she struggled.
She
But-
struggled when her eyes went.
Yeah, because she couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But she was willing.
Yeah.
She'd try. She would work on Facebook, and she would see pictures. She wanted to send pictures to her phone. She loved listening to the church service from First Broad Street because it made her feel like she was part of a
And she
congregation.
woke up Sunday for that.
Uh-huh.
She slept all day Sunday. We said, "You're gonna miss church." Her eyes came open and stayed open until church left.
We told Randy, our pastor, about that. Yeah.
She'd say, "Why don't they put Kenny and Teresa on the front row so I can see them?"
It wouldn't have helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and I know that Melinda and Jeannie were the ones that helped her get that. But she was willing to use technology.
Oh, she woke me up 30 minutes before church started. Said, it's not gonna do any good, pull it up now.
Right.
It's not gonna do.
Right, because if you do, you just get the waiting part. But when she worked at Robert Shaw, one of her jobs, she was an expediter. I learned what that word meant when she got that job. And one thing she did was to find a good phone system for their company. Yeah. And so she had to interview all these people and look at their technology, and they found a good one and used it for a long time. But she'd just charge right ahead and do it.
Dad one time said, I looked at your mother and I said, honey, I'm not the man I used to be. He looked at me and said, you never were.
My mom and daddy, oh buddy.
Yep.
Her memory was until last day when we were there, the
Mhm.
day before. She's gone.
Mhm.
It was sharp as always.
Yes.
And I had been asking her every time I see her, just, you and Melinda should come and live
Mhm.
with us. And that day I was forcing her so much that at least for a week, just come and,
Mhm.
when you get some energy, then you can come back and,
Mhm.
No, Melinda takes good care of me. I said, yeah, but Melinda needs care too. So she was like, yeah, we'll see. And the day after, she was, I was telling John that, she was afraid that I will take her.
So she left.
She left. She flew away. Because I told her that you really, I will set up the room and you have to come.
I just want to leave my home.
Yes, but she knew that you loved her, that you really loved her and wanted to take care of her.
And
She talked about that.
That's what you do in your family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was telling her that that's a shame. I feel very ashamed because that's not our family. That's not how we do. If our parents are old, we take care of them every day.
Yeah, and
So
that's
I feel guilty that we are not doing things on day-to-day basis. So you need to come and
Right.
over here and do it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you all did a lot to help. And Melinda and Mother and Daddy and I don't know who else sat down and planned this when Daddy needed care. And
You'd just like to see that.
yes, I did see that. Yeah. But that when Daddy needed care, they planned this out so that Melinda would be able to be. I mean, how often can you have an RN live with you?
Yeah, but lately,
And
Melinda had been
oh
up
yes,
and down.
yes.
So that's the reason I have been.
Yes.
I have been really forcing them since last few months because before Melinda was okay, that was not a question. But since Melinda had been up and down, so that's when I was very concerned that she herself needs help, and then Mom needs help. So two people need help are together.
Yeah,
That's
it was.
not a good situation.
It was good that.
Now.
You know what Michelle was saying when we were coming here? Why and Melinda doesn't live with us? You should come with us.
Yeah.
She just said that in the car.
Well, it
She
was
should
good
come.
that Jeannie was, Jeannie took time off from work and so on to get over here and give Melinda some respite care because it is exhausting physically, emotionally, spiritually to take care of someone.
And Jeannie was she was a superwoman all past few months when this Melinda had been off on sick. Mom was going downhill.
Right.
I absolutely salute her the way she did.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I felt bad for her. She has a full-time job, and I've told her several times, you have a full-time job. Then at night you're staying here, and then going to the job. I mean, I felt really bad, and that's why I've been after them. That if they can be there, then that would be much more help for her.
That
and
bed's
everyone.
so good to sleep in.
Yes.
And I don't sleep in my bed at home. I just can't go to it.
Yeah.
Come over here and sleep.
I've been sleeping. Well, it's piled with shit now. We gotta get rid of it.
There's.
Well, I'm gonna live here a lot.
There were a lot of things that we did in our extended family to care for parents. Like my mother's father prepared a room and improvised a potty chair for his mother-in-law so that she could stay with them. And he helped take care of her, Granny Hicks. And Granny Hicks was, no, not Granny Hicks, Josephine, grandmother, Mama Hicks's mother. But he helped to take care of her in their home until she died. And then when our grandparents, Mama Dee and Papa Fred, were getting older, they saw that they were getting older, and Mother and Daddy said, you sell your house and we'll build like a mother-in-law apartment on our house. And that's what they did. And they stayed with them until Mama Dee had died and Grandmother and Granddaddy had to move, but Granddaddy still stayed with them, and they moved from one place to another. I keep calling Granddaddy Papa Fred,
I took
our grandfather.
to their gravesite.
Okay, right. But that is a tradition to care for family, and I know it was frustrating for you because you saw a need and wanted to fill it.
And I am,
So
Teresa,
some of them
I
wear,
mean,
but some I don't.
Oh, okay.
I found finally someone who can come and do the stuff for them,
Uh-huh.
and I hire them to
Uh-huh.
work for every day.
Uh-huh.
And mom refused to have someone at house every day.
Yeah, that's
She
what,
said, I cannot have anyone for more than 1 time.
it's independence,
So she was
independence.
coming once a day, but you know, the main reason for hiring her was so she can do stuff for them.
Right.
Day to day, not necessarily, they don't have to clean all the time, but you know, just be here with them and help.
Right. Yeah, I tried to explain that to Mother too. I said, you know, she can wash the dishes, clean up the table, do the laundry, and cooking. Yeah, yeah. Right.
But no, she didn't want it.
Independence.
She brought us hot tamales one day.
Oh, she did?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But she was so independent that, you know, she just didn't want to accept anything from anyone.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, I think your
Yes, when there's
horizon is blurred.
Your POV has changed.
Mother kept every card you all sent. So when I go through the
Teresa, when I was driving back and forth to Roanoke all the time, and I took Mom up there one time.
I know. She
But
loved
I
that.
thought over and over how much Dad would like to have gone up there and been over by his daughter, his granddaughter.
Yeah.
His daughter-in-law. He would have loved that trip.
He would have.
Sitting on the porch,
Mhm.
looking out.
Papa Fred would have liked that too.
Papa Fred would like that.
Yeah. They both liked sitting on the
Papa
porch.
Fred and I could sit and watch the bees work.
held on to that. She said that.
Do you-
could sit for hours, but I
I
could
looked at it
sit.
the last 2 weeks.
I sat many times, with him. Even down at,
It's in
on
there. I know
Buffett
it's in there.
Mill, he had a beehive for a
So
while.
when I find
Uh-huh.
And he'd pull up a chair and we'd stand there, watch the bees come in and out and talk.
Do you know a song called "The Dreaming Tree Is Gone"? I forget whether
Yeah, Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews. Do you know? You need to look that up. "The Dreaming Tree Is Gone." First time I ever heard that, I thought of Granddaddy. Now this song is sad. You know, Daddy come quick. Da, 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 da. But I would just think about Daddy sitting out under the trees and just thinking. And Papa Fred sitting on the porch and just thinking. You need to listen to that song. Dave Matthews.
It's got a really good, like, creeping bass.
Mhm.
You know the song Comfortably Numb?
Yeah.
The very last verse of that, when I was a child,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's similar.
Yeah. It's definitely good song.
I saw it
Yeah.
But that's just such a song about people that get caught in that lifestyle that can't get out. A glimpse of happiness.
Yeah.
The first and last time that I met your dad, he offered if Joel wasn't good enough that I could go with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was bothering Ariel's bridesmaid at her wedding.
I did have a
Yeah.
patient that family brought her in. She was unconscious
Had to
and
tell him it's not appropriate
she'd been in and out of the hospital. And I went in there and said, what happened to Wanda? And they said, she was okay. She woke up in the
discovered
coma.
about grandmother and granddaddy's relationship was that grandmother was just as witty after he passed away. That she just let him shine because that was his personality.
Mhm.
So, but once he passed away, she really she said some great news. I have a really good story. I have 3 good stories. One of them I'm not going to tell because I might offend people. That's the one Aaron wants me to tell, but there's 2 that are good. They're progressive. But anyway, so the first story, grandmother and was sitting in her chair, and I was sitting on the floor, Indian style, and she's telling stories about her life. She was just kind of talking about it, and she just in conversation casually drops, well, you know, I mean, the first time I was engaged, and I was like, wait. You were only ever engaged to my granddad. What are you talking about? She's like, oh yeah, there was this boy, and kind of talked about him, and she was like, but I just knew, you know, I knew it wasn't right, but the ring was really pretty, so I thought I'd wear it for a while. And I was like, it's like, okay, well, I guess that's logical. But my second story.
Gave it back for him when I went to war.
Yeah, she's like, I gave it back to him, but it was really pretty. I had to wear it for a while. Okay. But my second story is we're sitting here one day, and I was working on the computer, so I was working, but I was around a lot, so she was like, wasn't convinced I was working. So one of the street lights goes out, and maybe I'd mentioned it to her, or we had seen it through the window. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's what you can do. And I was like, what's that, grandmother? And she's like, you can walk up and down the street, and if you see a street light out, you let them know. You could be a street walker. And I was like, grandmother, do you know what else they call that? But for like 6 months, we would randomly be sitting there, and somebody would say something, and then she'd drop something about me being a streetwalker.
That is really funny.
Yeah, that's my grandmother.
When
I am not telling that story. That one's a little.
You can tell me that later, Megan, so it won't embarrass everybody else.
It wouldn't embarrass. I was more worried about offending you guys.
I knew that was it.
Or
But
younger ones. It has some cussing in it.
well, we'll wait a little bit.
I'm not. See, I
Yeah.
told you your daughter. Is
Okay. I'll tell a story about when we lived over on Columbia Avenue. Grandmother, Mama D, was there, and we were talking something about Sharp's Ridge. Making comments because that's where you go make out there. I didn't, but I knew about it, and I didn't go in the cave either. But I didn't either. But we were talking about it, and Grandmother said, oh yeah, we used to go to Sunday school picnics up there. And we used to go to Sunday school picnics, and they did. But then Mama D said, Juanita, that's where the kids go to make out. No, to park, that's what she said, go to park. But that was so funny that our Mama D knew that. And like you said, Mother saw the best in everybody. And she just remembered that good thing about Sunday school picnics.
She was all forgiving and ever loving.
Mama D knew more.
Oh yeah, Mama did. Papa Fred did.
A lot.
But I've always heard that Papa Fred was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
And it was the story of Papa Charlie. And he always tells the story anytime I see him, and he's like, this one time I came, Mama and Papa Charlie came to a family reunion out, I'm assuming farm. And he was like, yeah, they had gone to the store, it was just him and Papa Charlie. And he was like, it was crazy. All of a sudden, he just pulled over right on the side of the road, went and stole a bunch of corn, and just drove off real fast. He was like, I thought we were going to get shot by somebody. He always tells
That's the way he did.
fun stories.
Eat some corn, I'll get you some corn.
Yeah. I hope that's not how he got that tenderloin he used to feed us for breakfast when we'd come, right.
As the Delongers.
Yeah, I know.
I remember that corner hutch that Susan redid?
The what?
The corner hutch that the Rudd redid?
Yes.
When it was up in the house in
Sevier County.
And I remember opening that bottom door one time and seeing a little square bottle.
Mm-hmm.
A little square bottle.
I realized what it was.
Yeah. Mama D got rid of that from time to time, poured it right
I
out.
remember the
Grandmother
change.
wouldn't let you have it.
Yeah, David took and it fell off his truck and bounced on the interstate.
Well, not when it was Papa Fred.
Okay.
For what she told about the engagement ring.
Yes.
So me and Mark had this thing, like when he bought me this ring, of course, it's eye-catching for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, he said that, why I bought this big expensive ring? I said, why? He said, if you ever think about getting rid of me, you have to think twice.
That's a good one.
get rid of me, I'm taking the ring as I leave.
You know, we made this joke, like, you know, if I'm washing my face or something, I put somewhere, and he will come and put this ring on me, and he will say, and I'm not home. Did you marry me? And I would say, yeah, sure. So this is kind of like a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Never that long after I bought it, we were going into the drugstore, and they had a whole rack of rings that were big like that.
And he
They
said,
were like $10.
And the gumball machine, right?
$15.
yeah.
You know, Papa Fred was kind of wild, but you remember when he bought the diamond ring for Mama D? Do you remember that for Christmas? And she had never had a diamond ring like that, or I don't know if she ever had an engagement ring. But he bought that for her and wrapped it in a small package, and then another small pack, you know, till it got to be a big package. And so he made that, he wanted her to have that kind of surprise.
Yeah.
And wanted to do that for her. He was kind of wild, but she tamed him. Some kind of wild men don't get tamed. We can't keep them, but
She said she knew in the 8th grade she was going to marry him.
Hazel Henshaw was so upset.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, lifelong friend that she won't get to.
yeah.
Same church.
Good.
As much as he doesn't want to have